Welcome to class today, pre-calculus students. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is when you're listening to this. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hope you're ready to learn some math. And remember, your quiz is due today. Now, you do not have to sprint over to my house. You're welcome to put it in the mail. You're welcome to attach it, scan it to a computer, attach it, and send it to me. And by the way, if you hear an annoying noise in the background, there are some guinea pigs in the room and they're drinking a ton of water. Hopefully that's not too distracting. I'm not sure if this microphone's picking that noise up or not, but if it is, hopefully you can just ignore that. But anyways, quiz is due today. I hope you did well. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you studied before you took the quiz. That's always a good idea. And let's get started. We have a lot to do. I know I say that a lot, but be thankful that we're trying to give you a very good math education. So grab your notebooks and let's take some notes. I try to keep the videos as short as possible so you spend most of your time working on homework, okay? Your homework tonight is 16 problems. I'll tell you that now, which is pretty normal, guys. If you were in a regular school, you'd sit for 50 minutes in a classroom, and they would give you homework to take home that night, okay? So I try to make it easier than that. Videos hopefully are shorter than that, and hopefully the homework will not be too overbearing. All right, grab your notebooks and let's get started. Don't forget there's a test coming up. I will give you a review sheet on Thursday, and there'll be a video on Friday that will help you with that review sheet. And y'all are coming to my house on Monday, a week from today, to either take your test or ask questions on your review sheet. All right, so grab your notebooks and let's take some notes. Okay, the heading today is factoring trinomials with a lead coefficient of 1. Factoring trinomials with a lead coefficient of 1. The lesson number is R4. And the date today, if you like to keep that in your notes, and I encourage you to do that. The date is the 19th today. 19th. Remember, this. I expect you to pause the video when you need to, and you'll probably have to do that some today, so that's fine. Just pause the video when you have to get caught up, and then we'll keep right on going, okay? Factoring trinomials with a lead coefficient of 1, lesson R4. I don't think I've done a very good job of explaining what factoring is, so you do not need to take notes on what I'm about ready to say, but watch and listen and pay attention, okay? If I had x plus 5 in a parentheses, and by the way, those that had Algebra 2 last year, you'll find this to be a review, of course, and x minus 4 in parentheses. If I were to multiply this out, and we covered this last week, I would take x times x, that would give me x squared, and then x times negative 4, and that would give me negative 4x. Then I would take 5 times x, which would give me positive 5x, and then 5 times negative 4, which is negative 20. I see I have a common term, or two common terms right here, so I'm going to put those together. I have a negative 4 and a positive 5. That would be a positive 1x minus 20. So what I did is I took these two parentheses, I multiplied them out, and I came up with this right here. Now, what is factoring then? Well, I'm glad you asked. Factoring is going backwards. What if I gave you this expression right here, and I said write it in factored form? So you would have to learn how to take this and decipher it and break it down and put x plus 5, x minus 4, or you could put x minus 4, x plus 5, okay? And that's what factoring is. You're going backwards. Instead of multiplying, I'm giving you the end polynomial, and you're going backwards, and you're breaking it down into factors, in parentheses, and that's why it's called factoring. Now listen to me very carefully. There's many types of factoring. Let me say that again. There's many types of factoring. And if you do not learn to recognize what type of polynomial you're dealing with, then you will not know what method or steps to use to factor that polynomial. For example, today we're looking at trinomials with a lead coefficient of 1. Tomorrow, contain your excitement, we're going to look at factoring trinomials that do not have a lead coefficient of 1. And then the next day we're going to look at factoring binomials. Last week we looked at factoring 4-term polynomials by the grouping method. Remember that? And so you must learn to recognize what type of polynomial you're dealing with, all right? Now you need to write down some steps today. I'm going to read them quickly. You'll definitely have to pause the video to copy them in your notes and then start the video. But here are the steps I'd like you to write in your notes. Steps for factoring trinomials with a lead coefficient of 1. Number 1, always factor out the common factor first. Always. Always do that first. Number 2, you then list out the factors of the last term 2 times each. I will explain all of this later. Right now it probably sounds like Greek. I'll go over this later. Step 3, pick, that says on. And you know what? I'm going to fix that right now while I have time to. That should be 1. So pick, there we go. Sorry about that. Pick one set from step 2 based on the middle term. And then step 4, factor. Now I'm moving on. You've got to pause the video and copy those, and then we're going to go ahead and do some problems. We're going to do 4 in your notes. I keep the video short, and then you're going to practice 16 of them in your homework. And that's where you learn, guys. It's like soccer, karate, whatever. Practice, 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 okay? And you're dealing with an old coach. I used to coach for many years, and I know that practice is very important. Okay, let's continue on. Here's the first problem today that we're going to factor. Write this in your notes, please. X squared plus 5x plus 6. Now, first of all, I want to point out to you, we have a trinomial. How do I know that? 3 terms. 1, then a plus sign, 5x, then a plus sign, 6. I have 3 terms, thus it's a trinomial. I have a lead coefficient of 1. How do you know that, Mr. Earhart? Well, look right here at the first term. What's in front of this term? A 1. So I have a lead coefficient of 1. Now, step 1 said factor out the common factor. Well, there's no numbers you can pull out. I mean, I have a 1, a 5, and a 6. I guess you could pull a 1 out. We're not going to do that. It's kind of a waste of time. There's no numbers you can pull out. Is there an x in every term? Well, we have 2 x's here, we have an x here, but there's no x in this term. So if there's not an x in every term, and we learned this last week, you cannot pull anything out. Now here's what step 2 says. Hopefully you have your steps in front of you. Sorry about that, students. That is why I gave them to you to look at. So you should have your steps in front of you. And step 2 says list out the factors of the last term in sets of 2. So here's your last term right here, 6. Let's list out all the factors of 6 twice. So 1 times 6, 1 times 6. That's easy. 2 times 3, 2 times 3. That's easy. I can't think of any other factors of 6 unless you want to get into fractions like 1/2 times 12. We're not going to do that. We're talking about integers here. So there's all the factors of 6. Now I have a question for you scholars. What kind of 6 is it? Positive or negative? Good, positive, exactly. So I want a positive times a positive. That would give me a positive 6. And then a negative times a negative. Why a negative times a negative? Because that would give me a positive 6. A positive 2 times a positive 3 would give me a positive 6. And a negative 2 times a negative 3 would give me a positive 6. There. I have done all of step 2. Pause the video or whatever, back it up, whatever you need to do to make sure you understand this, okay? But I listed out all the factors of 6. And I did each one twice. 1 and 6, 1 and 6, 2 and 3, 2 and 3. And then I looked at my sign and I said to myself, okay, self, if I've got a positive 6, I need a positive times a positive, negative times a negative, positive times a positive, negative times a negative to give me positive 6s, okay? All right. Now, let's continue on. If you'll look back at your steps, step 3 says pick one set from step 2 based on the middle term, okay? Now, look at your middle term. We have a positive 5. Only one of these will combine to a positive 5. In other words, add or subtract. If I were to add these two, I would get a 7. This would be negative 7. This one down here would be negative 5. But hold it. If I were to add these two, I would get a positive 5. And what's your middle term right here? A positive 5. Very good. So this is the group that I want. Do you see how I picked that? I listed all of the groups out. I don't want this one. I don't want this one. I don't want this one. There'll always be one group that works or no groups that works. Okay? One or none. All right. So all you have to do now, put your 2 sets of parentheses. Now remember, we have x squared here. We know we want our middle term to be x. So we're going to put an x into x. And then see this positive 2 and positive 3 over here? We're going to put positive 2 and positive 3. And that's it. By the way, another answer could be x plus 3, x plus 2. It does not matter which parentheses you put first. All right. Now, Mr. Earhart, how did you know to put x here? Well, again, look at your middle term, okay? You know that when you're done, remember, if I were to multiply all of this out right here, I would get back what I started with. And so remember, you want some terms here. We know when you take x times x, you want to get x squared. And that's one reason I put an x into x. Another reason is I want my middle term to have an x also. And that's the reason why, okay? We're going to practice a lot of these. You got 16 in your homework to practice, so you're going to get a lot of practice. All right, let's move on to problem number 2 in your notes, example number 2. Are you ready? 2y squared minus 14y plus 24. Now, you ready? What's step 1 say? Always factor out the common factor first. All right, so let's see. Hey, I can pull a 2 out. I've got a 2, a 14, and a 24. What's the biggest number that goes into all of those numbers? A 2. Can I pull a y out? Well, no. There is a y here, there is a y here, there's not a y here. So all that I can pull out is a 2. So let's see what we got here. 2 times y squared. 2 times y squared would give me 2y squared. Let's see, how about a negative 7y? Let's see if that works. 2 times negative 7y would give me negative 14y. Okay, what would I put here? Positive 12, because 2 times 12 would give me 24. So we're good. Now listen men, look at the trinomials you're left over with on the inside. It's a trinomial, 1, 2, 3, we have 3 terms. And what's the lead coefficient right here? A 1. We have a lead coefficient of 1. And that's what we're doing today. We're factoring trinomials that have a lead coefficient of 1. So step 1 said, pull out everything that's common. We did that. Step 2 says, list out the factors of the last term. So let's go to the last term. And what's the last term? 24. No. We already, forget this, guys. We already simplified this down to this, okay? What's your last term? 12. So I'm going to list out all the factors of 12 over here. So here we go. And do each one twice. 1 times 12, 1 times 12. 2 times 6, 2 times 6. 3 times 4, 3 times 4. Now, what type of 12 do you have right here? Isn't it positive? Sure it is. So I want a positive times a positive and a negative times a negative. Positive times a positive, negative times a negative. Positive times a positive, negative times a negative. Now, step 2 said to list out all the factors of the last term. I've done that. Step 3 says pick one set based on the middle term. So let's look at the middle term. Here it is, negative 7. Negative 7y, negative 7. One of these adds up to a negative 7. Ha, booyah. There it is, right there. So cross those off. That's the one. Negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7. If you struggle with your sign numbers, use your calculator. That's fine. No problem with that. Okay, so you do bring your 2 down. You can't just forget that. Go ahead and put your 2 parentheses like this. And now, how do I know what to put first? Well, look at your first term. It's a y squared. I know I want to put a y and a y because if I were to multiply this back out, y times y is y squared. So a y and a y, and then negative 3, negative 4. Now, I'm not going to rewrite this answer 2 ways every time, but you do understand this parentheses here could have been first, and this parentheses here could have been second. Hopefully you do understand that, okay? So either one of those 2 answers would be correct. But anyways, there it is. 2 parentheses y minus 3 parentheses y minus 4. All right, 2 more examples. Let's continue on, and hopefully you guys are grasping this. Let's go to a little more difficult problem. X to the 4th minus 2x cubed minus 8x squared. All right. Now, I remember step 1 was always factor out the common factor first. So, I can't pull any numbers out. There's a 1 here. And there's no number that goes into 1, 2, and 8 except 1. I'm not going to worry about that. But x's, I have 4 x's here, 3 x's here, and 2 x's here. Now, I can't pull 4 x's out because each one doesn't have 4. And I can't pull 3 out because each one doesn't have 3. But I can pull 2 x's out because each one has at least 2 x's. So I'm going to pull out 2 x's. Now let's see what happens. X times something is x to the fourth. Well, it should be x squared. X squared times x squared is x to the fourth. All right. Now, what would I put here? How about a negative 2x? Let's see. If I took, always check your work here. Make sure you're doing it right. Let's check it. X squared times a negative 2x would be negative 2x cubed. That's right. And then what would I put here? How about a negative 4? If I took x squared, oh, I'm wrong. Good thing I checked it, huh? That is incorrect. That would have given me a negative 4x squared. I want a negative 8x squared. That's pretty sloppy. Let's see if we can't fix it better. There we go. All right. Now, x squared times negative 8 would be negative 8x squared. So there we go. Now, look at what you're left over with on the inside. Look, we have a trinomial, 1, 2, 3 terms. We have a trinomial with a lead coefficient of 1. And that's what we're doing today. We're factoring trinomials with lead coefficients of 1. Okay, step 1 said factor out what's common. We did that. Step 2 says list out all the factors of the last term. So what's your last term? Negative 8. So let's list out all the factors of negative 8 right here. Be sure and do each one 2 times. So 1 times 8, 1 times 8. 2 times 4, 2 times 4. Ooh, hold it. All the other problems had a positive last term. This one's got a negative last term. Your 8's negative. So that means what? A positive times a negative would give me a negative, and a negative times a positive would give me a negative. A positive 2 times a negative 4 would give me a negative 8, and a negative 2 times a positive 4 would give me a negative 8. So all of these here are factors of what number? Negative 8. So we have done step 2. We have listed out all the factors of negative 8. Now step 3 says pick one set based on the middle term. Pick one set based on, what's my middle term? Right here, a negative 2. One of these combines to a negative 2. And there it is. If you were to add those two together, you would get a negative 2. So I don't want that, don't want that, don't want that. Now, I come over here, and the first thing I do is you've got to bring down, just like the last problem. Remember, men, you had to bring down the 2 that you pulled out in your final answer? Well, same thing here. You've got to bring down your x squared, and then go ahead and put your 2 little parentheses. All right, now, watch carefully. What do I put here and here? Well, look at your first term, guys. You want an x squared, so I'm probably going to put an x into x, because x squared, x times x would give me x squared. Now, what do I put for the numbers? Well, right over here, x positive 2, x negative 4, or x plus 2, x minus 4. And there's your answer. And don't forget these 2 parentheses could be turned around. Okay? All right, I hope you're getting this. Back it up, watch it, and watch it many times you need to get this down pat, okay? Last problem today for your notes, and then we'll get into your homework problems, okay? A cubed b plus 4a squared b squared minus 12, or negative 12, if you will, ab cubed. All right. Now, let's say in a test or a quiz, I give you this problem to factor. Because you students are such great, smart students, the first thing you would say to yourself is, okay, self, I've studied. I remember what Mr. Earhart taught me. He taught me to always factor out the common factor first. So I come down here. I can't pull any numbers out, coefficients. There's a 1 here, a 4, and a negative 12. I don't know of any number that goes into 1, 4, and negative 12 except 1. That's not going to help. But look at your A's. I've got 3 A's, 2 A's, and 1 A. So I can pull 1 A out from each term. Now let's look at your B's. You have 1 B, 2 B's, and 3 B's. Well, you can't pull 2 or 3 B's out from each term, but you can pull 1 out. So I'm for that. Let's pull out a B. Always pull out what's common first, guys, okay? All right, now let's see. AB times something, I've got to put something here, would give me A cubed B. Well, I think it's going to be A squared. Let's see. AB times A squared would definitely give me A cubed B. Very good. Now let's take a look at, Now let's take a look at our next term here. I've got to put something here, blank. AB times something would give me 4A squared B squared. Well, I know for sure I want a positive 4, and probably an A and a B, I would think, guys. Look, right here. AB times 4AB would be 4A squared B squared. All right. And now I've got to put something here. What would I want to put here? Let's see. I know for sure I want a negative 12. I need an A, and I've already got an A. Here's B cubed and a B. Probably going to put B squared. Okay, right here. Think about that. AB times 12B squared, or negative 12B squared, would be negative 12AB squared. Okay, very good. Now, look what I have. I have a trinomial, 3 terms, with a lead coefficient of what? 1. A trinomial with a lead coefficient of 1. We know how to factor those. We just learned that today. Step 2 says list out all of the factors of the last term. So let's come over here. Look at your last term. It's negative 12. I'm not worried about the variable, but it's negative 12. So I'm going to list out all the factors of negative 12 right over here. All right? So what would that be? We've done this one before already, 12, I believe. 1 and 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, 3 and 4. Now, what type of 12 do you want? You want a negative 12. So that means you want a positive times a negative and a negative times a positive times a negative and a negative times a positive times a negative and a negative times a positive. Now, I've listed out all the factors of my last term like step number 2 said to do, but step 3 says pick one set based on the middle term. So let's look at the middle term, a positive 4. Okay, no. That's the one. If you were to add those two together or combine those two, you would get a positive 4. So, now this is going to be tricky. Watch, please. Bring down your AB, right? Bring down your AB. And then we're going to put 2 sets of parentheses. Oh, guys, watch. Don't miss this. Come on. Be very careful. What would I put right here? Well, I have an A squared, so I know I want an A and an A. Now, would you trust me, please? I know what I'm doing. Let me go back a page real quick. Let me go back to 3 pages. Here's the very first problem that we factored. Was there a variable with the 6? Was there a letter with the 6? No, there was not. Look at the next problem we did in your notes. Was there a variable or a letter with this term right here? No, it was just 24. Okay, take a look at this problem here. Was there a variable with this last term right here? I know there was at first, but we factored that out. Was there a variable here with the negative 8 when we started to factor down here? No, there wasn't. But look at this problem here. Look at the problem we're on now. Oh, look at that. There is a variable with the 12. It's a B squared. So yes, you want an A and an A here because the A squared, but watch, students, see this B squared? You also want a B and a B. Now, I know it's a little confusing, but you're going to have to learn to look for that, okay? And now, what goes in front of the B's? Well, that's where these numbers come in. You want a negative 2, and of course your B's here, and then a positive 6. Now, again, these 2 parentheses can be turned around. So you have AB, and then in parentheses, A minus 2B, or A negative 2B, and then your other parentheses, A positive 6B, or A plus 6B. You got to look for that, guys. Keep your eyes open to what you're factoring, okay? And there we go. Now, you've got 16 homework problems to practice. No cheering allowed. I know you're excited, okay? Page 19, numbers 19 through 34 all. Now listen to me if you're wondering, how can I check the evens? Look, first of all, if you're not checking the odds in the back of the book, you are really making a mistake. I mean, I'm not being mean. I love you. I'm just telling you the truth, okay? And number 2, the evens, you're going to have to kind of, well, no kind to it. You're going to have to watch the homework video. And you don't have to watch the whole thing. Just watch the odds that you missed and find your mistake. And then the evens, just go through and fast forward and check your answers. And then the ones you missed, watch those and see why you missed them, okay? All right, so let's review. You have a quiz due today. I've received 0 emails and 0 phone calls, so either you guys are doing really well or you're just not contacting me. Don't hesitate to contact me. So your quizzes are due today, and if you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to call me, and then you have homework to work on today also. Okay, I hope you guys have a good day.